Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of voice the radio. So today, we have got one more V-Union Pokemon we need to take a little bit of a look at. And this is Greninja, and it's kind of dumb, because it's got 3 abilities. And I'm not even going to check to see, hey, maybe we've had a free ability Pokemon before. We've not. We've seen very rare Pokemon with free attacks. We've not seen a free ability Pokemon. Now, for anyone that's wondering, we have seen a 2 ability Pokemon. Now, the one that comes to mind straight off the bat is Porygon Z Level X that came around in Majestic Dawn that had 2 abilities and no attacks, Mode Crash and Decode. But do remember, Level X is you put on top of Pokemon so you can use the attacks of the previous level, so to speak. So it wasn't a Pokemon that couldn't attack, it just had 2 abilities and used the previous attacks. But a free ability Pokemon, ladies and gentlemen, Greninja V-Union is a little bit special. Now, what we've got here, translations obviously from the lovely Antoine Boulet, and actually I should give I'm not going to do this every time, but a quick reminder because they were only revealed today. V-Union are comprised of 4 cards. You play them from the discard once all 4 pieces are in a discard. When all 4 parts are in a discard, you play it onto your bench. They give up 3 prizes when KO'd. They are neither basic nor evolution Pokemon, so any cards that interact with them don't interact with this. You can only play 1 of each per game. So even though you play Greninja from the discard, if Greninja V-Union then gets KO'd, you cannot replay it from the discard. You can play a different V-Union Pokemon, but not Greninja. And all 4 parts share a name, so if you're playing Greninja V-Union, it is a case of you play 1 of each corner, and if 1 of them is prized, you cannot play this until it comes out. These are very awkward cards, but the 2 we've seen so far have been broken to the point where they have to be super awkward, or it wouldn't work. Let's see if this one can as well. 300 HP is lower than the other 2, but you're still at low VMAX territory, so it kind of works. Retreat cost of 2 is weirdly the same as the other 2 had, so just like them, I'm going to tell you that Air Balloon will work quite nicely. And weakness to lightning didn't look so bad until they went and revealed Flaffy, which is just a reprint of Electric. And I think it's fair to say that this is going to make lightning decks way better moving forward. They were looking like the rotation was going to really hurt them and stop them seeing played. That does not seem like it's going to be the case now. Being a water Pokemon does mean you are hitting weakness against stuff like Victini, but unlike lightning Pokemon, fire really are going to be hit by the rotation. With Welder going away, expect fire decks to really drop off when the rotation hits. But you do have Frostmoth to accelerate energy, and that is kind of huge because we've obviously got some expensive attacks here. Being able to accelerate that energy with Frostmoth, kind of awesome. So I did say we had 3 abilities, let's do this. Ability number 1, Ninja Body. Whenever your opponent plays an item card from their hand, prevent all effects of that card done to this Pokemon. Nice! Now to be clear, it is only item cards, not supporter cards, but this is going to give you protection from all kinds of weird things. So people nowadays love playing Crushing Hammer to get rid of energy. Oh, hang on a second. Crushing Hammer is an item card that seeks to discard the energy from Greninja. Well, no. Quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, no. It's not going to work. Not to mention, we've got all kinds of things like Pokemon Catcher. Remember, Boss's Orders will work because it's a supporter card, but if your opponent is playing around with stuff like Pokemon Catcher, that's not going to work. Those are just examples. There are plenty more. Any item card that would seek to be annoying to Greninja doesn't work. It is worth noting we've seen things like this before. If we take Escape Rope as an example, if Greninja is in the active, Escape Rope won't work because it moves Greninja. If, however, Greninja V-Union is your only Pokemon on the bench, Escape Rope will work because Escape Rope actually moves your active. It doesn't impact Greninja, but then Greninja has to go and take the place. So Greninja will be forced into the active, but Escape Rope doesn't actually affect Greninja, not technically, so it will work. I know that's kind of weird, but we've seen this ruling before. Ability number 2, Antidote Jutsu, This Pokemon can't be poisoned. Cool. Incidentally, this isn't particularly big in the standard format, right? We don't see poison being a big thing. Poison just doesn't see a huge amount of play. I'm not saying there's no poison decks out there. I'm not saying no one is using poison. I am saying that as it stands at the moment, poison is not a big thing. We don't need to worry too much. I will, however, say that in the expanded format, Hypnotoxic Laser is pretty big. And this gives you protection from that. Not from the sleep if they flip heads. But remember, for sleep from Hypnotoxic Laser, your opponent needs to flip heads to get sleep. And then you need to flip tails to stay asleep. It is, shall we say, unlikely. You know, it's like 1 in 4 turns. You know, they'll play 4 Hypnotoxic Laser. One of them should leave you asleep for like 1 turn. Don't worry too much about that. But hey, you've got a bit of protection, and that's kind of nice. Also, we never know what's going to happen with poison in the future. It's nice that you're covered. That's not all. We've also got the ability Probing. Once during your turn, you may look at your opponent's hand. We saw this on Gumshoe's GX. That's the last time I remember seeing this. Although, incidentally, we did see Lavender Town, which was a stadium card that let either player peek at the hand, but again, that's a 2-sided stadium card. It's not quite the same. Gumshoe's GX saw a little bit of play here and there. It had a nice GX attack that did 10 damage plus 50 more for each energy on your opponent's active. So you could essentially have the ability to look at their hand while punishing them for attaching too much energy. We saw it see a bit of play. It was never a powerhouse. This ability, again, I don't think it's worth playing the card just for the ability. I don't think you play the card to get this ability. What I think is that you play this and then this is just a handy bonus. Again, there are so many games where you can play either a Marnie or a Professor's Research. And you kind of want to play Professor's Research because that will draw you more cards. You'll end up with 7 rather than 5. But you kind of want to play Marnie because you're worried your opponent has a good hand. Look, if you look at your opponent's hand and it's amazing, play Marnie. If you look at your opponent's hand and it's trash, play Professor's Research. Again, I am scratching the surface of this ability here. There are a million different things you can do. But if you're trying to use boss's orders to stall for a turn, if you're trying to drag a Pokemon active to try and buy yourself a turn or two to set up, look at their hand, and that will a lot of the time tell you whether they have got a switching card or not. And maybe they've got Professor's Research. So it's going to be irrelevant because you don't know. But this can give you so much information, and a lot of the time the best players, the players that win the most, are the players that can deduce the most information. This gives you a huge leg up. Now you might be thinking, well, Wassy, that's 3 abilities, you must be nearly done. No! There are 4 attacks. That's right, 7 abilities and attacks combined. That is ridiculous. Now, the first attack here for a single energy is exactly the same as we saw on the other V-Union, but for a water Pokemon. Attach up to 2 water energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. And my thoughts on this attack are exactly the same as they were for Zacian and Mewtwo. I don't like it, but I'm willing to admit that if I've got nothing else going on, if I'm struggling, if I'm worried, if I'm panicked, this will work. If I really need energy, and we do have a decent single energy attack, we'll get there in a moment, but if we really need energy, this is not a bad place to go and get it. This'll work. But just remember, when you use this, you are essentially leaving this in the active to take a hit, and you generally don't want to leave a free prize Pokemon in the active to take a hit when all you've done is accelerate a little bit of energy, so nah. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. It's not terrible, but it is very much an emergency kind of attack. And at this stage, you should be thinking, well, hang on a second, Wassy. You've shown me 3 nice abilities, but you said yourself none of them are a reason to play the card. And you've shown me a nice emergency attack, there must be something worth playing. And it is, the other 3 attacks I like. Now, single energy, 130 damage. It's not great, but it ain't bad. You see, the thing here is, you've got these good abilities and all of that, and you've got 300 HP, so you're hard to KO, and this is single energy 130. You ain't getting Pokemon Vs with this attack, but you absolutely are getting the vast majority of single prize Pokemon. There are an awful lot of Pokemon that have 120 and an awful lot that have 130, and that's one of the big divides in the game. But you deal 130, so it doesn't matter which side of the line your opponent's Pokemon falls on, you're still getting a one-hit KO on them. Sweet. This is also a great option, just, hey, I've got all 4 parts of Greninja in my discard, I bring it out, now what? This. It's also worth pointing out that single energy means you can use this with something like an Aurora energy, and that means that you can potentially just play this as a random tech. Put all 4 parts in your deck, trash them all, and then at some point, you should be able to get this out of your discard, and even if you're only using this attack, you get to look at your opponent's hand once per turn, you can hit 130 for a single energy on a 300 HP Pokemon, and you're hitting a water weakness you might not be hitting otherwise. Ignoring the last 2 attacks, which we don't want to do forever, they're pretty good. But ignoring those last 2 attacks, I could see Greninja v Union being a cheeky tech in a whole bunch of decks that play stuff like Aurora Energy, because actually, a 300 HP Pokemon that can do 130 for a single energy and lets me look at my opponent's hand once during their turn. If we ignore everything else about that card, I kind of like it. Sure, it gives up free prizes and it's awkward to get into play, but it's a tech, you've got to be careful when you play it. This is kind of cool. Now, for my money, the best thing about this card, yes, we are still not done, the best thing about this card, 2 water, 1 colorless energy, Water Ball Shuriken. This attack does 100 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Yes. This is the kind of attack where basically, if you get this rolling, your opponent's on a clock. Simple as that. If I can use this attack, my opponent has maybe 2 turns to take me down before they've lost the game. 1 attack should get rid of all of my opponent's support Pokemon, so those things sitting on the bench like the aforementioned Frostmoth, like Chinchino, things of that nature, they are all going down. 2 attacks will get basically any single prize Pokemon and weaker Pokemon V. Things like Crobat, for instance, will then go down. 3 attacks will get everything other than the bigger V maxes, and by this point you should have won the game, so if I get this working, my opponent's basically got 2 turns to stop me, or I've won the game. And we've got Frostmoth. So, attacks like this, we don't want to give our opponents any chances, right? We don't want to play Greninja and then build it up over a couple of turns, give our opponent a chance to boss his orders and KO. What we want is drop it and go nuts. Well, as soon as all 4 parts are in a discard, as long as you've got something like a Frostmoth, play this, Frostmoth free energy, and it's water, so you've even got stuff like Capacious Bucket to get that energy more easily, or Nessa to get 4 energy, yes, 4 energy, from the discard into your hand, so you can then just straight away go with your Frostmoth, and you are ready to go. Greninja, for me, is the easiest of all of the 3v Union so far to actually make work, because you've got Frostmoth to just accelerate the energy to it. When we talked about Kyogre Amazing Rare, I told you that dealing 80 damage to all of your opponent's Pokemon is amazing, and puts them on a couple turns clock before you win the game. But the attack cost of Water, Lightning, Metal, Colorless is super awkward. This is basically free water energy, and with Frostmoth that's fine. If you can get Frostmoth into play, and you can get Greninja into play, this is ridiculous. And like I say, 2 turns later, I'm expecting I've won the game. Now, the final attack here isn't particularly amazing. It's quite nice. Free energy, 180, stop them retreating. We've seen a million stop them retreating attacks in the past, but they generally do like 30 damage. They generally don't do 180. And this is super relevant, because this is a 2-hit KO on anything. Like, HP at the moment, we don't generally get any higher than Eternatus with 340. So, even though I don't think this attack is absolutely stunning like the last attack, essentially what we've got here is, I'm going to drag something in the active boss's orders, I don't know, something like that. And then essentially what you do is you hit them for 180, and they need to get out of the active now. They have got one single turn to get out the active. If they don't, they lose. Or at least they lose that particular Pokemon, and that particular Pokemon might be giving up free prizes. You see where we're going here? And again, with Frosmoth, it's quite easy to get the energy on. Greninja is a ridiculous Pokemon. It's ridiculous because it's got 3 abilities. It's ridiculous because it's got 4 attacks. It's ridiculous because it's got 3 abilities and 4 attacks on the same card. But it's also ridiculous because you've got an attack that can do 100 to all of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Not the active, incidentally. I should really stress that. It is just the bench, but I don't really care. That's still amazing. And it's ridiculous because it can 2-hit KO while stopping retreating. And it's ridiculous because actually I can ignore those attacks and just have a 300 HP Pokemon that hits 130 for a single energy and lets me look at my opponent's hand once every turn. I adore this. This is 5 Wossie card, with the same caveat I gave on the other V-Union. These are pretty much the most awkward Pokemon we've ever seen to actually get working. Although, I even said that, they're probably still easier than things like Amazing Rares and some of the fossils, so I think even that's an exaggeration. But if you get them working, these are basically the best Pokemon we've ever seen. And I see this like I see Suicune and Entei Legend. Because I don't think you can build a deck around Suicune and Entei Legend. I just don't think that's possible. Because it's too awkward to get into play. You got to play both parts at once, etc. But that was still part of a deck that got second place at Worlds, and arguably would have won in an untimed format, which it wasn't, because it was that gosh darn good. And that's how a lot of the Legends worked. A lot of the Legends were super awkward to get into play, but they still made their way into decks because when they came out, it was worth it. Yeah, that's V-Union Pokemon. Sure, they're awkward. No arguments here. But does anyone want to argue they're not over-the-top ridiculous? Anyone want to argue this isn't a 5 Wossie game-winning card if you can get it in play? These are nuts. I don't know, that's what I think. I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wossie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing is always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.